Welcome everybody to the first episode of 2022 of our series Sustainability is Better Business. Today we have as a speaker Barton Finn, and we will learn how IT procurement can integrate the sustainable development principles and become a strategic driver for change. Barton, thank you so much for your time and for giving us this short session. We will have, as usual, a 30-minute talk followed by a 50-minute Q&A session. So,
great. Thanks so much, Andrea. I'm just loading my screen. Great if you let me know if everything is working as it should. But thanks to you for giving me this opportunity. First session of the year, so that makes it even more exciting, I guess. And also thanks to Tiziano as well for setting that up in the background. That's much appreciated. And thanks to all of you who joined us today for your time and your interest. It's also much appreciated. So let's start, and let's start maybe with a couple necessary introductions and background information. So first of all, I'm Barton Finn, really glad to be here today again. I'm working for TCO Development, and TCO Development is a Swedish non-for-profit that is based in Stockholm, and that is responsible for the development and the management of TCO Certified. And what is TCO Certified then? Well, TCO Certified is an independent sustainability certification for IT products that purchasers and manufacturers can use as a platform for responsible and sustainable ICT or IT purchasing. That's really what you need to know for now. We'll have time to dive in a bit more details in a couple of minutes, but that's really what I need you to remember for now. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm part of TCO Development's, we call it the purchaser support team. And so that basically means that my key responsibility is to provide support to purchasers, which are one of purchaser is an important stakeholder for us. So my responsibility is to provide them support in using TCO Certified and the different tools that we develop. In terms of the agenda for today, I have been asked to elaborate on the question, why is sustainability better business? And I would like to address that question with the specific angle of procurement. As Andrea said, as at TCO Development, we have the conviction that procurement, the fact of buying things and purchasing, is really key for any business in order to be able to deliver on sustainability and to really become sustainable. And so from that perspective, I really wanted to address the question with that angle. And so the topic that I'm going to discuss today is, why is sustainable purchasing better business? Taking the example of IT industry and the IT products, which is an area that I know quite well. So yeah, that's the agenda for today. Let's start. And maybe as a starter, I just wanted to share with you a couple of reflections on why do we consider and why we have taken the decision to focus on IT products in relation to TCO Certified. And I guess to answer to that, two elements, I would say. First of all, the fact that IT and IT products are just getting everywhere in society and are invading, almost, so to say, every dimensions of society. So we're talking of about 34 billion connected devices in 2019. So that amount is probably greater than this today, for an average of 8 devices per user. And really, I mean, that's a lot, and I think it illustrates quite well to which extent IT has really penetrated every dimensions of society. And in that context, of course, IT and IT products have become a basic working tool for almost all organizations, if not all organization, at least for the ones that want to stay in the game and stay relevant. IT and IT products is something that is kind of unavoidable in that sense. The first element, the fact that IT is everywhere. And the second element is connected to the picture that we're seeing here, which is basically about the fact that IT is everywhere, but it has also a lot of different negative impacts. And I think that the picture here summarizes quite well these different negative impacts. So it's a picture of a e-waste dump site in Africa. So a site where electronic waste is being dumped and handled informally. And I think that on the picture, we can see that there are clearly environmental consequences connected to e-waste, but more generally to IT products, also the manufacturing of IT products. And here, if I had to pick maybe one figure, I would mention that it's estimated that IT represents around 5% of the global and of annual greenhouse gas emissions, which may sound like not a lot, but it's a lot, and it's even more than civil aviation. So it's really a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions. But of course, the different challenges and issues connected to IT are not limited to environmental issues. And that's also what I think that the picture illustrates quite well. We have a lot of social issues connected to IT products, health-related issues, as we can see here with workers being exposed, for example, to hazardous smokes and fumes, but also on a more general level, human rights related issues, because things like forced labor, hazardous working environment, these are still present in some parts of the supply chains of the IT industry. So if you add those two elements, the fact that IT is everywhere and the fact that it has a lot of negative consequences, that's why we think it makes sense to focus on IT, because it's a way to relate and to be relevant to all organizations practically, since all organizations are using and buying IT products. And it's also therefore a way to enable them to drive progress on issues that they are against their will, but that they are indirectly associated with. So that's why we have, I mean, when TCO Certified was created, the decision was taken to focus on IT products. Moving on, another question that we could also ask is why focusing on procurement? So as I told you, it's really one of our key convictions that, we're really convinced that procurement is a key pillar for a business to become sustainable. And the reason for that is because we see procurement and the fact of procuring things as the only opportunity for users, buyers, organizations to influence from a sustainability perspective the whole life cycle of whatever they're buying. So that's why I try to represent here the fact that really procurement sits at the border of the industry and the user or the consumer side. And from that perspective, the fact of buying things is the only moment where we will be, as user, organization, or consumer, in touch with the industry, and the only moment where we'll be able to influence on a lot of issues that we previously mentioned. So just to take again the two examples that I have been taking previously regarding greenhouse gas emissions, we have studied. We have reviewed a couple of studies, and basically the results of these studies showed that from a greenhouse gas emission perspective, 80% of the greenhouse gas emission connected to if you look at the entire lifetime of an IT product from material sourcing until end of life, 80% of its total greenhouse gas emissions were occurring during material sourcing and manufacturing. And so from that perspective, it means that as user, as buyer, as organization, it's really hard to have any impact on this, since once we have bought the product, the IT product in our case, well, 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions would have already occurred. So procurement becomes a bit the only place where this can be discussed with suppliers, where this can be addressed, where priorities can be communicated, and where decisions in relation to what product to present or used as less greenhouse gas, or emitted as less greenhouse gas as possible. Procurement is a bit the only place where this kind of decision and this kind of influence can be have. We can achieve that towards suppliers. And it's also a bit the same for e-waste. So a lot of basically decisions that are being taken at the procurement stage will determine to which extent an organization will be able to keep product in use for as long as possible and prevent these products from becoming e-waste. And this is also something that has to be discussed at the stage of procurement regarding product configurations, but also eco-design decisions that have been made by the manufacturer or by the suppliers. So yeah, really procurement is this place where as users, as buyers, as organizations, we can have an influence on a lot of the different issues connected to IT products that we already touched on. So I think that based on that, we can all agree that yes, IT industry and IT products is relevant from a sustainability perspective, and that yes, procurement is a good place, is a good leverage in order to address the issues that are connected to IT product, but that's also true for other product categories. So if we agree about this and the fact that therefore sustainable ICT purchasing is important for a business to become sustainable, then we need to think about how to do this and how this can be implemented. And so from our perspective at TCO Development, we really identified three key principles that we consider as non-avoidable for any organization that wants to implement responsible and sustainable procurement practices. So these three key principles, the first of these is to always have a circular thinking whenever you are trying to implement a responsible or sustainable purchasing policy or strategy. And having a circular thinking means to do whatever you can in order to avoid buying new things, because that's really what has the most impact. And everything that you don't procure, that's really what is the most sustainable from an environmental and social footprint perspective, because you will prevent renewing all the different impacts that are connected to manufacturing new products. And so that means to always give priority to reuse, reduce opportunities, buying secondhand. This is really important if you want to have and to maximize your impact. Of course, we all know that it's not always possible to not buy new things, and so whenever that's the case, whenever buying new whenever not buying is not an option, then you need to think about what to do in relation to the new stuff that you want to buy. And so that's where the two other key principles come into play, and these are criteria and verification. So in relation to criteria, and that relates to the requirements that you will develop and that you will ask your suppliers and your manufacturers to fulfill, to respect. The principle here is to always use criteria, to develop and use criteria that are comprehensive and relevant. So what does that mean? Comprehensive means that you need to always think about the different issues connected to whatever you will be buying, in our case, IT products, and you need to try to focus as much as possible on as much as possible issues and the most pressing ones. And so in our case, it means to focus on the environmental impacts of IT product, but also on the social issues that we discussed. So the poor working conditions and everything that needs to be addressed at the same time, so to say. And relevant, that means to always develop criteria that are, on the one hand, challenging, so that they push the industry towards improvements, but also realistic. Your requirements need to be realistic. The industry needs to have the capacity to meet these requirements, otherwise they will not be respected and they will not drive progress. So this is really key to keep in mind in order to have robust and impact driving criteria. The last principle that is really key to us is verification. So that is what comes after once the criteria have been developed and once compliance with these criteria have been asked from suppliers, you need to verify that whatever you're buying is fulfilling the criteria. And so that you can do through verification, to having verification process in place. And here the principle that is really key for us is to implement a verification that is systematic and independent. Systematic, that means that verification always needs to happen. Otherwise, it's leading to the risk of your requirements and criteria not being respected by suppliers if they see that you're not following up on whatever you are asking them to comply with. And independent, it means that the verification needs to rely on scientific and independent proof of compliance. Self-declaration and these kinds of elements are not really proofs that will challenge and that will push the industry on making the necessary progress. So this is, in a nutshell, the three key principles that we consider as really key for developing and successfully achieving responsible and sustainable purchasing. And so now what I would like to do with you is to spend a bit of time on talking about TCO Certified and how does TCO Certified relate to these principles and what we have said also earlier, and how ultimately TCO Certified facilitates the sustainable IT purchasing. So to go back to TCO Certified now, as I said, it's a sustainability certification for IT products. And that means that it's really a product certification with certificates being issued to products if we see that these products are fulfilling our requirements, are fulfilling sustainability, minimal sustainability performances that we ask them to fulfill in order to get a certificate. So that's really what TCO Certified is all about, and it's being used as a tool or as a platform for sustainable IT purchasing by IT purchasers, so every type of organization buying IT products, but also by the industry. And so what it means using TCO Certified as an IT purchaser, it means to integrate TCO Certified as a requirement in the criteria that we've just discussed, as one of the sustainability requirements that an organization wants to see its IT suppliers fulfill and meet. So this is basically what it means for in terms of using TCO Certified in purchasing. And what it means for the industry to use TCO Certified, well, it means to certify their products and to get into the framework that we have developed for them to structure the work in relation to sustainability. So that's a bit what we mean by using TCO Certified for purchasers and for the industry. So just to complete the overview here, the certification, it's been around almost 30 years that the certification exists now. It's a complete sustainability certification. So as previously discussed, we really try to focus on the social issues connected to IT products, on the environmental issues connected to the to IT product, with the independent and systematic verification. So we'll have time to see that in a bit more details, but really we try to include as much as we can, and to be as comprehensive as we can in the way we address sustainability issues connected to the IT industry. And so, yeah, currently the certification is available for 11 product categories. So basically, we're covering everything that is connected to workplace IT equipment, so computers, tablets, smartphones, projectors, screens, monitors, these types of products, and also everything that is connected to data center products, so servers, networking equipment, as well as storage. So yeah, that's really it regarding TCO Certified in general. And so let's now deep dive a bit in more details on what we're doing on the criteria side and what we're doing on the verification side. So what you have here in front of your eyes is a kind of overview of the different criteria, of the different sustainability requirements that are included in TCO Certified and that a product has to comply with in order to get a TCO certified certificate. You don't need to bother reading everything that's on the right. I just wanted to give you an idea of the different types of families, of criteria families that are included in TCO certified. And it's just an overview, as we have over 50 criteria per product category, but at least it gives you an overview. And what I think is really important for you to remember in this overview is that, again, we try to be as comprehensive as possible by including social criteria, so what we call socially responsible manufacturing criteria. So that's criteria in relation to the working conditions in factories, maximum working hours, protective equipment, and the type of protective equipment that needs to be given to the workers. Compliance with local labor laws and everything. So that's really what we hear by social criteria. We also have, of course, a lot of environmental criteria. That's basically all the other families that you can see here. I won't spend too much time on it, but the one that I would like to highlight is the product lifetime extension criteria family, which is basically a set of criteria that we have developed in order to enable and to promote increased lifetime and life cycle for IT products. So basically, these are criteria designed at making product lasting longer. So we're talking about drop in temperature resistance criteria. We're talking about repairability criteria, availability of spare parts, upgradability of devices so that they can be upgraded and organization can continue to use them as IT assets. And the reason why we have really focused on developing these criteria is because TCO Certified is a certification focused on new products, and so it was difficult for us to directly impact on the first principle, which is the circular thinking. So that's why we came up with this criteria family, in order to make sure that if we were not directly influencing this first principle, we were nevertheless giving the opportunity to organization using TCO certified products to keep their product in use as long as possible. So yeah, that's really what this criteria family is all about. And then, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time here. If you have any questions, just let me know. But yeah, that's basically the social and environmental criteria and the different criteria families that we have. And the second element that I wanted to insist on is the fact that these criteria are designed for following a life cycle perspective. So as you can see, the idea is to design criteria that will target all the different important issues that we find in all the different important stage of a product life cycle. So material sourcing and manufacturing, use and reuse, as well as end-of-life management. Moving on to the verification process that is included in TCO Certified, that is also really, really important. And this is basically the process that we have developed in order to make sure that certified products are and continue to be compliant with our requirements that I just presented. And so here you have basically an illustration of how that certification process works. And the three things that I would like to insist on in relation to that certification process is that first of all, we're talking of an ongoing certification process, verification process, sorry. So it means that we're not just doing a one-time verification and then we issue a certificate and then we don't pay attention to whatever it's happening with that product. No, the idea is to have verification actions before that certificates are being issued, but also after, in order to make sure that products are and remain compliant with our requirements. The second element that is really important to insist on also is the fact that all the verification actions happen on an independent way and based on independent proof of compliance. So that means that we only work with organizations that are qualified and accredited for performing the necessary verification to see if products are compliant or not. So these organizations, they are testing laboratories as well as social auditors who will do the social audits of the factories in order to make sure that the working conditions are in compliance with our requirements. So yeah, that's what is meant by independent verification. And then last but not least, of course, we also have a process for dealing with non-conformities whenever these are being spotted in order to make sure that there are consequences for not complying with our requirements. Yeah, and so now I'm reaching the end of my presentation. I just wanted to try to summarize a bit the different benefits that are connected to sustainable purchasing, but in our case, using TCO Certified as part of a sustainable IT purchasing policy. So I see three key benefits for the purchasers. So first of all, it's a tool to raise impact. Thanks to the criteria that we develop and also the ongoing monitoring of industry progress and the corrective actions that we make sure that they implement. So it's really a tool that organizations can use in order to raise their impact, the impact of their procurement department, but the impact of the organization as a whole, since procurement is really an important part of the activities of an organization. And beyond just a tool for raising the impact, it's also a tool for measuring and reporting on that impact, because we provide different types of sustainability KPIs that organization can use in relation to the sustainability performances of their IT procurement process, and they can integrate these KPIs in these metrics as part of their non-financial reporting or sustainability reporting or whatever. The second key benefit is connected to the idea of saving resources. And we're talking mainly about time and human resources, since again the development of the criteria and the requirements and the development of or the fact of performing verification is included in TCO Certified. So that means that an organization doesn't have to spend the time internally on carrying out these tasks. But there is also a financial element to that as well, because as we've seen, we're really trying to extend the usable lifetime of certified products. And so there is also like a kind of economic efficiency that is fostered by the increased longevity of certified products. And then last but not least, also the fact that the requirements that we have developed in a lot of cases, they go beyond what is existing standards and legislations. And so from that perspective, using TCO Certified is also a way for an organization to know that it asks its suppliers to go beyond what is basically being required by law. Yeah, and in terms of the benefits for the manufacturers and for the brands, here are also three key benefits. First of all, the fact that TCO Certified is a tool to reduce risk. connected to sustainability, since TCO Certified provides a framework for structuring the work of an industry, of a manufacturer in relation to sustainability, and that is also something that is useful in order to be able to answer and provide information to other types of stakeholders such as NGOs, media, and customers about a manufacturer's sustainability track record. So it's a tool to reduce the risk connected to manufacturing IT products. It's also a tool to create business opportunities by meeting the procurement demands of customers. And in that sense, TCO Certified is really a tool to validate their sustainability claim through independent verification of compliance, and also through the follow-up work that we're doing and that we give insurance to purchasers that we're doing in relation to pushing the industry on delivering changes and improvements. And then, yeah, last but not least, as I said, it's also a tool to structure for a manufacturer to structure its work in relation to sustainability, and to also monitor its progress against its peers, by again also relying on the sustainability KPIs that we collect and that we and that we distribute. So yeah, that's really the three key benefits that I see connected to using TCO Certified as a manufacturer. Yeah, so that basically is everything I wanted to share with you today. I hope I stayed within time. You have my contact details here, so if you have any question, just feel free to ask it to me now. But if you have any question after today, just feel free to contact me through LinkedIn or through mail. And the link here is for the French section of our website, but we also have a Dutch, a German one, an Italian one, and an English one. So really feel free to have a look if you have any question.
Thank you so much for this presentation.
No worries, with pleasure.
We can have a little discussion. And I see that Jörg already raised the hand.
Yes, thank you. I saw your logo all over the place. So I'm one of the people buying stuff that I shouldn't be buying, but I didn't know what it was. So in my view, you really have like a market challenge that consumers should be deciding on your label, but nobody knows what it is. But the question I have is the length of the procurement chain. So I talked to somebody about palm oil, and the problem there is that there are about 20 parties involved in the buying process of palm oil. For in this case was a Swiss company. Do you track also the length of these procurement chains, and do they all have to be certified, or how does this work?
Sorry, everyone. I don't know what happened. I got disconnected, so I'm back. And so Jörg, please continue your question. Yeah.
No, the question was about the length of the procurement chain. In the case of palm oil, for example, I talked to somebody. They have like 20 people, intermediaries between the producer, the original producer, and the company reselling it. Do you track the length? All of them have to be certified, or does this influence your label?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, and indeed it's also a bit the same in the IT industry. You can have a lot of intermediaries between once the final product has been produced until it reached customer, but also a lot of different actors in the supply chains also involved in manufacturing or the different components of a product. For us, it doesn't impact TCO Certified and that much, in the sense that we are really a product certification, and so it's once the product has been certified, it means that it is compliant with all the different requirements that I presented, no matter if it goes through a lot of different intermediaries after that. So yeah.
No, thank you.
No worries. I see that Katka also had a question.
Thank you, Barton. I'm Katka, the Kickstart team. I had a question for you. Thank you so much for speaking about the processes and kind of about the ways and how you focus on that. I think it's a really important topic. So thank you so much for that. Could you maybe give some examples of your favorite corporates or organizations that you think are leading, kind of being the example actually in sustainability in connection to IT? Because we are building new sustainable ways how to work with corporates, and we're always try to learn from the best practices. And so if you could maybe explain some of the examples, maybe it can be personal and just maybe why and what was the transition, or this will be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So a couple that I can mention. The first one would be Fairphone, because I think I don't know if you're familiar with them, but the whole business model is basically oriented towards producing a smartphone in a responsible and in a sustainable way, which is, I mean, it's almost like an impossible task, but the progress that they could achieve over time since the first model that they introduced and now the last one, which is the fourth one, it has been amazing, and I have personally been amazed with what they have achieved and all the progress that they have achieved. And I mean, from my perspective, I can compare with the other brands that we have, that we deal with usually. They are really at the forefront of driving and of building that sustainable or fair smartphone. So yeah, definitely Fairphone would be one. Another one that I really like as well is, and that we collaborated with actually, is Closing the Loop. Closing the Loop, also from the Netherlands, by the way. Closing the Loop, which is basically a company that is providing e-waste compensation services. So basically, Closing the Loop, what they do is that they will say, okay, they will propose organizations to buy IT products in a what they call, of course, we need to be careful with these types of formulation, but in an e-waste free manner, in the sense that what they will do is, if you are a company and that you want to buy 100 notebooks, for example, they will say, okay, what I'm going to do is that I will collect 100 notebooks in a country where there is no proper recycling facilities, so mainly Africa and in the e-waste dump sites that we know. They will collect the notebooks from there, and they will ship it back to a country where these e-waste can be handled and treated properly. And so that enables them to, and enables their customers especially, to offset, that's the word, to offset the e-waste and the potential e-waste that they will be generating. So I would say that definitely Closing the Loop is another one. Then two other maybe organizations that I think are really quite. I mean, these are more of a NGO, similar to TCO Development, but we have what is called the. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's in French, the INR, and I mean, it's a network of organization, and you have one in France, you have one in Belgium, you have one in Switzerland, and I think maybe one in Luxembourg, but I'm not even sure. And it's like a knowledge hub about sustainable IT. So it's not only about IT products; it's also about how to design IT services in a sustainable and in a responsible way. And I mean, all the different contact and the content, sorry, and the different resources that they are developing, I think that they are really, really accurate, really, really spot on. And sometimes we also based our knowledge on whatever research they have been doing. So so that's really one. And then a last one. It's yeah, it's also an organization or kind of community, but it's Green IT. It's an organization. I think it's a French organization which is really active on the topic, and I mean they are one of the experts. And the way I see them is more on the academic side, but they are really among the top class experts on the impact of the IT industry, IT products, and IT services, and the environmental impacts especially. So they do a lot of relevant studies that we also use as source of information for our activities, and they are really helpful from that perspective. So yeah, those would be the ones that I have in mind, at least for now. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Any other question?
I think we are almost we are very close to the end. But is it clear for me what happens when you are a manufacturer? Not truly clear what's happening if, for example, Kickstart wants to buy 100 laptops and 200 monitor. What's the role of TCO Certified?
So basically, TCO Certified, in a nutshell, would provide you the tool that you can use in order to make sure that the notebooks that you will buy will be among the most responsible and the most sustainable ones that you can find on the market. And so basically how it will work is that Kickstart will say, okay, it will go towards your supplier and it will say, okay, I want my products to be responsible and sustainable, and therefore I want my products to be certified according to TCO Certified. And what that means by just doing this, it means that you will ask from your suppliers that your supplier provide you with products that fulfill all the different criteria that I present to previously. And so that's how we try to facilitate this for purchasers, because instead of you having to say, okay, what should be the good energy consumption of the notebook that I want to buy? What should be a good composition in terms of chemicals of the product that I want to buy in order to make sure that whenever it will reach its end of life, it's not causing a threat for the human or the environment. All of that will be included in TCO Certified, and that's how TCO Certified is really this tool that will enable you to know that you are buying products that are among the most responsible and sustainable on the market.
Thank you, Barton. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you, Barton. And maybe let's end up with one last question from my side. I'm still young and idealistic, so a general question about the IT world. Do you think in 50 years or simply in the future, is it possible to have an IT world which is carbon neutral and socially responsible? Like totally 100% carbon neutral and socially responsible? And maybe what would be the most important step for you to achieve that?
So I want you to stay idealistic. So maybe don't remember my answer for too long, but unfortunately, no. And if the question is 100%, that's for sure no, because producing stuff is having an impact. So from that perspective, it will be difficult, but I'm quite sure that we can do a lot of things in order to significantly reduce some of the main issues that are connected to IT products. And that I'm really convinced of. And I think that even in 10 years or in 15 years, a lot of progress can be achieved in that space. And to me, I would say that first thing that is really, really critical and that we all need to understand, if that is to become a reality, is to start using less IT products, because I mean, I think IT offers a lot of opportunities, but on the other hand, I also think that for the moment you have a lot of silly application in relation to IT products. I was seeing a commercial for a smart egg tray, which was sending you reminders whenever your egg tray was empty. I mean, yeah, does it make sense to put a chip in an egg tray and to code an application that will send you a text message whenever the egg tray is empty, or does it make sense for you to look at your egg tray whenever you are in the kitchen and know whenever you have to buy eggs? That's what I mean. We need to understand that IT is really, I mean, it's everywhere, but it's connected to a lot of issues. Getting the materials out of the ground is creating a lot of issues. So in order to really reduce the impact of IT, we have to reduce our consumption of IT products. So that means less IT and using our devices for longer. I would say that that's really the most important thing that we can do. And the second one is to improve eco-design in order to improve the recycling performances. Unfortunately, today, we could think that recycling is really a nice thing, and it's something that should really be promoted. But recycling for IT products basically means getting the precious metals whenever that is possible from our products, and the rest, nothing is done with it. So basically recycling IT products is taking all the metal, and once you have all the plastic, it will be shredded, and then it will be considered as waste. So recycling is not really what we could imagine of this thing, like one notebook goes in and we were able to get 100% material out of that notebook that can be reused for producing something else after. So from that perspective, I think the recyclability and that starts with eco-design, but the recyclability of IT products needs to be improved in order to achieve that. Yeah. So these are the two first steps to work on, I would say. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for your answer. And we're up with the time. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you again, Barton, for giving this presentation and sharing your insights in the IT industry. And everybody have a wonderful rest of the day.
Well, thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Tiziano, and thanks to everyone for their time.
Thank you. Bye.